Hi everyone, it's Tricia Farin, real estate agent with William Ravis in Newtown, Connecticut, and you're watching Keeping the Real in Real Estate. If you've been listening to my podcast for the last year and a quarter, I guess, you know that I kind of just talk about the truths about what I'm experiencing and kind of call out those in the media and in the industry that are maybe influencing the wrong perspective and the wrong way of thinking about what's going on in real estate. And today is no different. I'd like to spend a few minutes helping you understand about what's going on with all the buzz for this thing called the NAR settlement. For anybody that doesn't know, NAR is the National Association of Realtors, and as a real estate agent, we subscribe as a member to this organization, and it provides a number of things. It gives us education, it puts guidelines into the way in which we work ethically and morally. I'm allowed to put Tricia Farin Realtor because I'm a member of NAR. And there are agents out there that are not members, but I could tell you in my area, it's a requirement to be a member. It elevates the status of what we deliver to our customers and to our clients. And we live by a certain guideline of how in which we do business. And there's all this hullabaloo right now because there's all these court cases and a settlement that's in progress. It hasn't been settled, so to speak. It's been proposed because there was a discrepancy over the way in which information about how commissions are charged and paid for by sellers and buyers. And there's quite a big settlement that could come into play starting in July, which would cause NAR to have to pay back millions and millions of dollars to sellers that were miscommunicated about how commissions work. I want to take a few minutes and I'm going to talk about 3 myths that I'm going to debunk from what I'm hearing in the news and what I'm actually hearing scarily from other agents as well. This is really not as manic as everything is the media is making it out to be. So first off, I want to talk to you about the commission rates themselves. For some reason, there seems to be the thought that commissions are standardized or fixed, and they're not. Commissions are negotiable. They're negotiable on the sales side and they're negotiable on the buy side. And it's dependent on what value each agent brings. There are some agents that consider themselves discount brokers or discount agents, and for a lower commission price, they're going to give you a bare bones service package. Then there are luxury agents that are going to go all out. And then there are the ones that are in the middle that give various degrees of service depending on what is needed for a particular house, for the market that it's in, for the location. There's a lot that can be a part of it. Extra services can be things that go well beyond just sticking a listing on the MLS or just showcasing a certain number of properties to a buyer. It could be the types and amount of marketing that's done and the amount of ad spend or the number of open houses that are done. When I say a wide range of service offerings that a real estate agent can provide, each one can determine what their value is. And as a result, that's where the negotiation comes in. So you don't need drone footage. You don't want to have a 3D tour. So maybe there could be some negotiation on the commission price. But it's very important to understand that commissions are not preset. They're not standard. They're not typical. There is a wide range that could be negotiated. So when you start hearing these terms, this is part of where all this trouble came from, is because it's an antitrust issue. We're not trying to work together to set a standard rate. That's never been our approach. But unfortunately, it was written into the contracts in a way that wasn't clear that it is a negotiable item. And so you'll see, if you're going to be engaged in any real estate anytime soon or in the future, that the wording in a contract will outline exactly the fact that the commission is negotiable and here's what it is. So that's myth number 1. Myth number 2 is that no longer, once this settlement is approved, that sellers need to pay buyer's agent commission. So that's an interesting thought because the seller is actually bringing the product to the table. The buyer is bringing the money. And even though the wording has been misconstrued, the buyer has always paid the commission. Always. They're bringing the money. But the way everything is outlined, it makes it look like the seller is paying that, and they're not. It's kind of like when you go to buy a car. You don't actually know what the salesperson's commission rate is going to be, but as the buyer of the car, you're paying for that commission. It's not coming out of the pocket of, Chevy or Volvo. It's coming out of the pocket of Mr. and Mrs. car buyer. Well, the same thing happens in real estate. The buyer is bringing the funds. It's just never been outlined that the buyer's paying this or the seller's paying this. It's just been put into one column or the other when it really shouldn't have been. Quite frankly, if it were up to me, I would change it and I would call it a transaction fee. Just like taxes have to be prepaid, or just like the interest has to be prepaid. You have to pay the attorney. You have to pay, the state of Connecticut needs to be paid a conveyance fee when that property is sold. The fees that go to realtors is just another line item. It's coming out of the money that the buyer is bringing. I don't know how it ever got to be something that the seller thought that they paid, but they don't. What is a distinguishing factor is how the real estate agent's leadership and loyalties lie. Do they work for the seller? Do they work for the buyer? Do they work for both? Well, in the state of Connecticut, we're actually allowed to represent both. But having been on that role for several transactions, I have to say, it's not a comfortable feeling. It's very difficult to hold all your loyalties to the seller and all your loyalties to the buyer. It's kind of like getting a divorce and sharing an attorney. You wouldn't do that because you want your interests to be maintained to the highest level by your attorney as much as the other side's attorney. And that happens the same with real estate. A seller is going to hire a real estate agent to sell their property. The real estate agent's loyalties lie with the seller. They're going to negotiate. They're going to act on the best interest of the seller. So I hear a lot of times that buyers say, I want to deal with the listing agent. Okay, well, that's great. So you're going to deal with somebody whose loyalty lies with somebody else. A buyer should be represented by their own real estate agent so they can monitor the negotiations. They can look for things in the house that may cost them a lot of money. They can make recommendations that are going to be in the best interest of not only the purchase, but of their experience with this house going forward. And buyers don't think this way. I don't know why it ever came to be this way, but I have heard countless times, oh good, you're the listing agent, then I want to deal directly with you. Okay? I will answer all the questions honestly and openly, but when it comes to negotiation, my client is the seller. I'm loyal to that person, to that family, or to that owner, and I'm going to act on the behalf that makes things best for them, not a buyer that comes unrepresented and wants to work with me. It's an uncomfortable situation, quite frankly. And for me, my motto going forward, as I have done my last situation where I've been representing both sides, is I'm going to bring another agent in to represent that buyer so that their side is represented properly and I don't have any conflicts of interest. And that's a message that I'm going to continue to promote to buyers, that don't you want somebody who's going to be working at their fullest potential for your best interest, not for the best interest of somebody else? It's very worth everything that you get from that person because you have somebody who's doing this every day for a living and knows the ins and outs and is working for you. So any buyers out there who want to work with the listing agent, be very, very careful because that person doesn't hold loyalties to you. The third myth that I'd like to debunk is that realtors are not needed for to buy and sell homes. Now, I chuckle at this because I think that this is an internet thing. I've seen this over the course of time that because there's information online, people think that they're now an expert in a particular field and that they can go ahead and do to the highest level that somebody who's been trained and educated and has experience in that field can do. So I'm going to give you a very simple example in the case of a rental. So there are many, many, many landlords who go ahead and rent their apartments on their own, and they're perfectly fine to do that. However, What they're not recognizing is that in many cases, they're breaking the law. There are lots and lots of rules when it comes to renting, like so many that you don't even realize these are rules. Fair housing is a real thing. You cannot discriminate against a whole load of different buckets of people. And it's very, very common for a person who has subsidized financing for their housing through something like Section 8 or things like that, that will come in and say, are you Section 8 approved or do you accept Section 8? And the landlord will say, no. You can't do that. That is actually not allowed. You can't also ask, do they have children? Do they have communicable diseases? Like there's so many different things that cannot be done that are done all the time because they don't know the rules. So a poor tenant goes into a lease and is basically put in a compromising situation because they didn't know that all these rules existed to protect their interests. If they would have hired a real estate agent would have said, they can't ask you that. This is how you'll have to fill out the application. They need to go based on credit score, your finances and ability to pay, not how that money's coming to be unless it's in a legal way that you're getting it. You need to be able to show, I can afford this apartment. And if Section 8 is the way you can afford it, that should still be considered. Now that's in a rental. Just imagine in a home. So now you have people who think that they could sell their homes on their own because they think all they have to do is put it on Facebook. Okay. Then you have others who say, well, I'm just going to go with the for sale by owner because if they don't have to pay realtor fees, then maybe I can negotiate a better deal on the house. Okay. So as a real estate agent, I come in and I say to the potential buyer, how do you know that the price of this house is the correct price? How do you know that all the paperwork that they filled out is correct and that they didn't omit a very important material fact about the house that's going to actually cost you more money later? How do you know that you can negotiate the best deal with this for sale by owner individual who thinks that they know what they're doing? Many, many times, the transaction fee that goes to the agent is paid for easily just in the negotiation ability that the agent has to either get you a better price on the house or for a seller get you a higher price. Or it doesn't always have to be just the price of the house. It actually could be the entire offer package, inspections, appraisals, other things that are included in the property. There's so many components to it that we as agents have seen the pitfalls and the hardships that people have had to undergo that we try to protect them against. And those that go into this without the aid of trained and experienced guidance don't even know that they didn't maximize the potential that they had on either side. Now, I get it. It appears, that it's a seller's market and that maybe they could do it on their own. But time and time and time and again, a for sale by owner will be a listed property with an agent because they tried to go it alone and they just weren't able to do it. I mean, something simple like, do you really want strange people coming into your house without having known anything about them at all? Who knows what their motives are? As a real estate agent, when I sign on to sell somebody's house, in my mind, I take ownership of this property. I treat it as if it's my own. Anybody who's coming to the house is vetted. If they're coming with another agent, I feel protected because that agent is also responsible for those people. When I'm there at an open house, I make sure that everything is being taken care of properly. Letting people in randomly because they call you because they like your house, that's a scary proposition. I know that there are certain services, even if I can get the information online, I would never do on my own. I'm not going to repair my own car. I'm not going to go to court without an attorney. I'm not going to have surgery done on me without a highly trained physician. There are just so many things, and real estate is one of them. There is a reason why realtors exist. There's a reason why the majority of buyers and sellers use realtors. So if you're in that minority, I urge you to look and see what are you actually gaining by not using a realtor. How much extra work are you doing? And are you protected? Are all your interests protected? And are you getting the best bang for your buck after everything is all said and done? So those are the three things that I really wanted to talk about with respect to this NAR settlement thing. I am happy to talk to anybody who has questions. This is not settled. We may not know until July, and from now until July, there could be some other changes that will impact how we talk to each other and how we interact. Until then, I'm going to continue to serve my clients to the highest level that I can, both on the selling side and the buyer side. I'm going to present the reason why I'm a 5-star rated real estate agent, why I've won awards, and why I will continue to be at the top of my game. It doesn't matter what changes come. I will learn everything I can about them, and I will adjust accordingly and communicate what I know. And I'm not going to get wrapped up in the hype of what's happening on the media or what misinformed agents are saying or sending out. I am the transparent real estate agent. I tell it like it is, and I am true to my word. And if that's the kind of person that you want on your side, I'm your girl. Have a great day. Until next time. Thanks for watching.